If it's not a globe, we're not on a rotating globe, and it's not a flat circle, and I, like I say, prove that for myself. Like I say, it's up to each individual to do their own research on that. Whatever level you're up to, obviously we're going to have a very wide number of different views. So, what I know for sure is that the land is stationary. It doesn't move unless there's an earthquake. If you've been fortunate to have been in an earthquake, you know what the Earth's like when it's moving. That's not our everyday experience. Now, okay, our senses can be full, but not every single day of your life. If you've seen the same thing, you've seen the sky's blue every single day of your life, and the sky's blue. And I've never met anybody that says otherwise. So there are independent, observable, physical truths that we can gain from our senses. Our God-given senses is how we make sense of the world. It's not rotating, it's not orbiting. We're not in a vast universe. It's a model that's in our heads. And for me, when I first kind of realised that I haven't seen this myself, I haven't been up there. I haven't seen a ball Earth. I haven't seen it rotating. I haven't seen any of that. And as I said earlier, everybody lives on top of the land. Nobody lives underneath it or on the side. If it is a ball, it's a flat ball. There's no curvature to be observed anywhere. Geodetic surveying comes up a lot. Guess how do they do the Ordnance Survey? There's two types of surveying, geodetic surveying and plane surveying. Guess which one the Ordnance Survey uses? Plane surveying. And actually airplane surveying, aerial surveying, geodetic surveying doesn't seem to be actually used for any practical purpose other than to say, yes, we're on a ball. So I will always take criticism on board and see if it has any validity. If it does, then you change your model, you change your idea. I'm sure I'm going to present something tonight that's will look quite bonkers to most people. Maybe not the shape of the land. It's quite traditional, quite Mercatorish. And the other thing is east-west travel is reality, continuous east-west travel. Everybody knows you can get on a plane in Japan, fly east and get to America. Same the other way. Nobody ever finds a physical barrier. There isn't one anywhere. So the Earth is continuous. Either is a ball, or there's something very special going on. And I believe, because we're not rotating, water finds a level surface, etc., etc., that the 3 dimensions that we're used to are actually wrapped up in 4 dimensions. We won't be aware of this 4th dimension of space if we hadn't realised that the Earth was indeed a fixed plane. Basically, it's continuous. It makes space continuous. So when anybody says, Earth can't be flat, where's the edge? How come nobody ever falls off? Well, we know, it's a ridiculous thing to say anyway, because we know nobody does fall off or find the edge. But if you take all the information together, this is the conclusion that I've come to. The description of it being a Pac-Man effect just gives that instant recognition. You know exactly what we mean. If you go off the east side of the map, you appear on the west side of the map. You're not a teleporter or anything, none of that going on, but it's just a continuous plane. Do you remember the old BBC logo with a ball rotating in the middle, but the land kind of being continuous at the back of it? That kind of thing. That's why nobody's ever fallen off. Again, the Bible says the seas are enclosed with doors. Doors allow two-way passage. It says the seas are enclosed with God's decree. It's his commandment that holds in the oceans, his word. It doesn't say there's a physical ice wall there. It doesn't say the atmosphere there or anything else. And the ancients had this view as well. They didn't just have a view of a flat earth or a geocentric earth. They also had this view of east-west continuous travel, and east-west obviously travel of the sun, the stars and the moon. That's Nut, the goddess Nut here, and it's showing continuous east-west travel, flat plane, and then east to west. All the ancient cultures, the ancient Chinese also thought it was a square flat earth. So, what's the Great Pyramid got to do with it all? Originally, or up until a few months ago, I assumed it was a rectangular Mercator. The flat Earth was a rectangular Mercator, and then things just happen. You know, you get inspired or you get inspiration from places. The pyramid exists. It's not a hoax. Can't deny reality. Nobody knows still really why it was built. We know that it was built very intricately. A great deal of accuracy has gone into it. I don't know if you know it's more accurate in terms of its geography. It's aligned to true north better than the Greenwich Observatory. So someone knew, however it was 3,500 years ago, exactly what they were doing. Now the mainstream view is that they're built as tombs for pharaohs. Now, not only are we likely to reject it because it's the mainstream view, we know generally the mainstream information is there to put us off, but there's no markings anywhere. I mean, the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, this is where they buried the pharaohs. Look at the difference. That's the pyramid. It's just rocks. Okay. Very nicely cut rocks. This huge, I mean, you can see the size of the people down there. Look how big these things are. That's outside. But inside, there's drawings all over the walls, paintings, colour. I mean, you can imagine they were full of jewels and gems, I would imagine, at one point. Sarcophagi and tombs. Let you know who was there, what they did, all about them. Very proud of it. Compare that with the King's Chamber, the so-called King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. You can see it's just a bare room with a what they call a sarcophagus. Again, they control us with language. They deceive us with language. So they call it the King's Chamber, but it might just be called the main chamber or the upper chamber, which is known as the King's Chamber, and this is known as the sarcophagus. Nobody's ever found, no mummy's ever found, no markings, no nothing. And if you think, oh well, ancient thieves stole them. Who's going to steal the dead body? Yeah, the jewels and stuff, but the bones are going to stay there. That's the so-called Queen's Chamber. Just a little alcove and, you know, a hole in it. So were the grain stores, were they built as grain stores? Well, it's a lot of trouble to go to just to store some grain. Let's just build a barn. Yeah. Mystical initiations. Well, if you want to believe Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophist and all the occult, just remember not to swear. You know, then they're used for mystical initiation. Again, where's the markings? You know, where's the evidence? An energy generator. Again, you know, are there you know, mini pyramids anywhere else that are generating energy around the world? I mean, does anybody know of a pyramid that actually generates energy and goes into the grid? And it goes into the grid?
No, it goes up.
Okay, so again, it's just conjecture. At the end of the day, if there's a pyramid anywhere that actually is plugged into the grid and supplies energy, then I will believe it. Again, same with the water purifier, really. Same thing. Say again. Okay, but Plato was a member of the club. I mean, I'm not saying that people might not have been, but that's not what they were built for. Yeah, probably just build just a regular Masonic hall for that. But Plato and all it's funny, in our education system, we revere the Greeks and we revere the Renaissance, which obviously brought back the Greeks, the rebirth of the Greeks, and they're all occultists. When you look, Pythagoras, etc., etc. A lot of them were paedophiles as well, and they really were. Astronomical observatory is a big one, and that still holds for a lot of people. Again, you know, the thing was sealed. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when it was sealed. Maybe it was sealed when it was finished, but it certainly wasn't opened again until the 9th century. When they had to hack their way in, and Al-Mahmud basically got people to believe there was a bunch of treasure buried there. So the thing was sealed, so it's not going to make a good astronomical observatory. The other thing is, all the shafts were sealed as well. I mean, the thing was covered in casing stones for a long time. Tourist attraction, maybe. That's, you know, more of a tourist attraction at the Valley of the Kings, I think. But everybody has, I mean, you know, it's a great source of wonder for a lot of people. What I was fascinated with was these internal shafts. Now, they weren't actually discovered for a long time. I think at the end of the day, the pyramid was sealed for a long time. The King's Chamber shafts, you can see the King's Chamber, I'm going to call them now for just because that's what they're called by most people, is not in the centre. The Queen's Chamber is, that's off centre. The King's Chamber shafts reach the outside, or you'd assume they do, with no casing stones. But the Queen's Chamber shafts, first of all, they don't reach the outside, and they were both sealed until they were discovered in the late 19th century. It was a British engineer called Wayman Dixon who first discovered them. They were measured till Flinders Petrie in the late 19th century, and then again, I'll tell you about Gantenbrink with his robots have measured them as well. But the thing is, these shafts, not only are they pretty much equal angles, so any alignment with stars is just going to be coincidental if they're exactly equal. But the thing is, if it was built on a observatory, again, you're not going to see anything. These things are only 8 inches square anyway. And if you want to observe the stars, just go outside. Go outside and observe them. Doesn't make sense, doesn't add up. The idea that for ventilation shafts, again, the pyramid, for the workers as they were building it, because it's not going to be ventilation for the dead pharaohs, is it? The top is going to be completely open until the last, until the capstone is put on. So you're going to have ventilation all the way up, right until the very end. That's the best way of ventilating it. Again, these shafts, it doesn't actually show it on here, but the Queen's Chamber shafts actually go along for 6 feet horizontally first, and then they go up. So they're not going to make good ventilation shafts for a start. I'll take questions at the end. Yeah, no problem at all. And again, escape for the pharaohs, car, if it's his spirit, doesn't really need any particular shafts or what have you. Spirit can go through pretty much all physical materials. Like I say, they were measured. They've been measured twice. The first time they measured them, this is for the Queen's Chamber. You'll see why it's important shortly. 37.28 for the north, 38.28 for the south, so a degree out. And then in the 1990s, a German called Gantenbrink measured them with robots. Quite a lot closer, 39.28, 39.36. Now they say within 2 degrees of error, because at the end of the day, it's not that easy. I'm quite surprised. I mean, they found supposedly found a new chamber recently with kind of X-ray. I'd like to see them, hopefully sometime in the future. It's been 25 years since the last time. I'd like to see them measured really accurately with, X-ray equipment, I suppose. But to me, they're probably going to be pretty equal. They were probably built to exit at the same kind of, or certainly have the same angle. Queen's Chamber's right in the middle of the pyramid, bang in the middle. I mean, it's an amazing feat. It's an amazing monument when you dig into it. Obviously, it sounds like a lot of people have done a lot of research and study into them. Because it's so accurate, because it has these shafts, everybody's wondered what are they for. I'm just using common sense. I'm just using common sense and reasoning. We could make all kinds of conjecture and stories about them. I believe that the whole thing was built for its geometry, simply for its geometry. I mean, we know that pi is represented in a lot of its measurements, and phi, the golden number, as well. I mean, it's a mathematical marvel, but it stands 280 feet tall as well. And think about it, it's the only building still standing from antiquity. So somebody's gone to great lengths to build this building and make it geometrically and geographically accurate. And what I found, because we talk about pi with the pyramid, is where might circles interact with this pyramid? And if you take a circle with a radius between the base of the pyramid and the floor of the King's Chamber, what we'll find is that circles that tangent it also tangent all of the shafts as well. Now, this is a truism, whatever shape of the earth it is. These shafts absolutely tangent these circles perfectly. Now, obviously, there was a bit of a trial error that went into it. I tried 1 big circle and 2 big circles and all kinds of different things. And then it started to appear that what is known as sacred geometry, what is known as Metatron's cube, or the flower of life, is actually represented by the pyramid. This circle here tangents the King's Chamber north, This is the King's Chamber South there. This is the ascending passage. Obviously, I've extended the lines out, and that circle tangents the ascending passage perfectly as well. The Queen's Chamber shafts, it's going too fast. Queen's Chamber shafts are the outer circles. They're not quite perfect tangents. One's slightly that way and one's slightly that way. But what I've done is this particular drawing of the pyramid, I've used it because it's got the most accurate. It's the most accurate drawing of the pyramid to the most recent measurements. Right? So I've tried to be as honest about it as possible, really. Like I say, this is why I believe that the shafts, if they're ever measured properly, will probably, turn out to be exactly the same angle. But I've no way to, I'm not going to stand up here and say they are exactly equal, because they're not, as far as we know. The most recent measurements are done 25 years ago. Which I find, I find it quite. You can't hardly see that, can you? Astonishing, to be honest, that nobody's managed it before. Nobody's noticed it before. This is a different drawing. John Legons, the very, very famous pyramidologist, Egyptologist, and they are actually slightly more accurate here. I suspect that he's drawn them with exactly the same angle, so you can see that the tangents are perfectly, or maybe you can't because it's so faint, unfortunately, on this screen. This is the Wikipedia pyramid. On the left side, the tangents are nice, perfect. You can see on the right side, the green line here is absolutely nowhere near this circle now. That's because they've drawn it at 42.7, about 3 degrees different to the last measurements. So Wikipedia's main pyramid drawing will not reveal any secrets. It's another reason why we shouldn't trust mainstream information off the bat. This is another one of John Legons, and he's, like I say, he's drawn this so these would exit the pyramid at exactly the same level. And now you can see the tangents are absolutely perfect all the way around. Like I say, if the pyramids are ever measured fully accurately, we'll see that this is indeed correct. So what the pyramid is doing is basically just carrying on. It's not just the internal geometry, it's how it relates to this perfect geometry as well. Because you can say, oh, well, it's a bit new age, or it's a bit occult, or what have you, but it's circles and lines and angles. We need them for all buildings. Yeah, buildings are square generally. We need to measure things accurately. It's called perfect engineering. Found something else as well. If we obviously mirror the pyramid with the extended lines, what we see in the middle there is a perfect copy of it. Unfortunately, the screen's changing the angle between the computer and the output. But you can see there, fit another pyramid perfectly inside there. And again, if we extended those lines out, and we'd see another pyramid, a double pyramid in the middle, and it'd go on and on forever. So not only have we got sacred geometry in there, perfect geometry, and just an amazing building, geometrically and geographically, there's also fractals going on here. The knowledge that these guys had many thousands of years ago is quite mind-blowing. And it also kind of brings up a general point, the idea that we're advancing, that the ancients didn't know very much, that they were just sand people and they were very simple. I think it's actually the other way around. Whilst we're advancing technologically and we've got fantastic computers and chips and self-driving cars and all the rest of it nowadays, what we're actually doing, I think, intellectually and in terms of potential, is going backwards. At the end of the day, if I don't need to look at a map anymore, or read a map, or if I don't need to write anymore because I can type, and so on and so forth, our own amazing creative powers are going to diminish generation after generation. I think the pyramid proves that they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were far smarter than we are today, or we believe we are today. So, the Bible says the earth's got 4 corners. The Bible says the earth's on pillars. So I'll show you a video of what I think the earth might look like. Cue dramatic music. If God built the earth, or a creator built the earth, is he going to create it higgledy-piggledy, slap a bit here, slap a bit there, or is he going to use absolutely perfect geometry and engineering to do it? If the earth is fixed and it's on pillars, why wouldn't there be the magic number 7 of them? Why wouldn't they be arranged in perfect fashion. We often see the earth on pillars with these long-legged columns all around the outside. It doesn't look like it's going to support the earth. I think this is a more likely concept. Map that we used to, shape of the continents as we used to, but on a four-cornered, four-dimensional Earth. Antarctica is the continent at the bottom. And that's it for that video.